Am I the butthole for not getting upset or convince the bride after I was uninvited to my friend's wedding? This happened over the weekend, but there's still so much tension. One of my good friends, Matthew 26M, is getting married next month to Jennifer 26F. I 25F have known Matthew since high school. We've both connected when it came to video games, especially Minecraft. Matthew has had his fair share of girlfriends over the years, but when he met Jennifer 3 years ago, he said that he knew she was the one and they are madly in love with each other, and I am so happy for them both. Last year, Matthew popped the question to Jennifer, and she said yes. Jennifer's demeanor towards me drastically changed after the engagement. She was distant towards me, she wouldn't look at me, and she would hardly speak to me, which was weird since Jennifer was always so sweet and nice towards me. I'd still talk to Matthew and meet with him and our group of friends, sometimes with Jennifer, and she would still act cold and not speak to me much. I kept my distance from Jennifer. 3 months ago, we all received a save-the-date invitation, and their wedding is going to take place at Matthew's cabin 2 hours away, and they were going to keep it small due to the size of the cabin, so we were only allowed to bring one guest. That was when Jennifer acted extremely harsh and hostile towards me and said, "Bet you don't have a +1 since you are so into my man." I was taken aback. I asked her what the F she was talking about, and she smirked and said I knew and to not act stupid. I ignored her remark and told her my boyfriend was coming. She looked surprised and left. I of course told Matthew about what Jennifer said to me, and he was not happy, so he made her apologize to me. Then, last weekend, I was invited by Matthew's sister to go dress shopping with her and Jennifer. I declined at first because I wanted to keep my distance from Jennifer. But Matthew's sister assured me that she will deal with Jennifer, and that our other friends will be there with us. So we go dress shopping, and I found a beautiful dress that I thought would be perfect, and I took a picture to send to my boyfriend since he planned on matching IE with a bow tie with me. I tried the dress on, and it was a perfect fit, so I guess I got lucky. Jennifer was angry, called me names such as a bad woman, a boyfriend-stealing girl, and that I was officially uninvited to the wedding. She caused such a commotion. The employee of the store asked us to leave. I told Jennifer I didn't want to come to the wedding anyway, but I was going to because my friend was getting married. I told her if she didn't want me at the wedding, fine. I don't give a F since I won't go to a wedding if the bride is going to be so rude to a guest. Matthew and our friends found out, and I was getting texts left and right begging me to just come to the wedding. I told them I was happy to get uninvited and I'll just spend the day with my boyfriend on the day of the wedding instead. They're all mad at me for not fighting hard enough. Am I the butthole? Edit. So my decision is final. I will not be going to the wedding, and there's no changing my mind about it. I will be sending a wedding gift to Matthew the day prior to the wedding instead. I told Matthew and all my friends that I won't be going, and they can't convince me otherwise. Matthew also called me and asked if we can talk somewhere. I agreed, but it's to tell him in person that I won't go so that way he knows I'm serious about that. Update: I met up with Matthew and brought my boyfriend along. Of course, he begged me to come to the wedding, and he said he would beg Jennifer to let me attend. I told him it's best if I wasn't there. I told Matthew that Jennifer has a problem with me. Period. He said he doesn't understand, and he did ask her many times, but Jennifer would continue to say she was just stressed. I got angry and said that's crap, and he knows that. My boyfriend also intervened and said to Matthew that he needs to wake up and realize Jennifer is crazy and he can't keep defending her. Matthew said he loves her too much and doesn't want to lose her. My boyfriend and I got up and told Matthew to let us know when he has a backbone. In the meantime, it's best we don't talk. I messaged all of our friends in the group to let them know I'm keeping a distance from Matthew because of Jennifer. He's still my friend, but at an arm's length. I will still be sending him a gift regardless, but I'm keeping my distance from Matthew. It seems like he is in denial and can't comprehend what's going on at all. He usually is in denial. Ever since high school, he would have a sense of denial. Another thing to mention is that Jennifer is nice to all of Matthew's female friends, just not with me. I've also gotten a message from 2 of our friends saying they have dropped out of attending the wedding because of Jennifer and that they are on my side. Edit 2. Jennifer already bought her wedding dress a while ago. When I went dress shopping with Matthew's sister, she invited Jennifer as a way to resolve this animosity she had towards me. So it was Matthew's sister who wanted to buy a dress, and I found a dress that I loved and Jennifer went crazy. Hope that clears things up since so many were confused. Update. I will be posting an update here because frankly, I do not have the time to edit or shorten up the post. I exceeded character limit and there was a whole lot going on that I did not want to leave out, so I will be copying the post here. Hello to all. A lot of you have been asking me for an update, so I might as well make one. Before I do that, I want to clear up a couple things that a lot of people have been confused about. When I went dress shopping with Matthew's sister, she brought Jennifer along because she wanted us to put our differences aside for Matthew's sake. This shopping trip was not for Jennifer to buy a wedding dress, as she had already purchased her dress a long time ago. I hope that clears things up. I would never try on a dress or purchase one if the bride is the one who is shopping for a dress. That's an obvious rule lol. Matthew and I never had romantic feelings for each other. We never hooked up or anything of that nature. Our relationship has always been and always will be platonic. I'm going to go straight to the point with this update. This is going to come out as a shock to a lot of you, but Jennifer called off the wedding. I found out from our friends who messaged me. I asked what happened, and they explained that Jennifer told Matthew she couldn't marry him and admitted that her behavior towards me as well as towards a couple of other people, which includes Matthew's sister and his best friend Jacob. She apologized to Matthew and realized that she isn't in the right place to get married. This happened about 2 days before the wedding. I decided to call Matthew, and I told him I heard about the wedding being called off and assured him I'll be here if he ever wants to talk. He asked if we could meet and I agreed. Matthew explained that Jennifer had severe trust issues not just regarding me, but with his best friend Jacob. Jacob was supposed to be Matthew's best man, but he was also uninvited by Jennifer over the fact that Jacob might encourage Matthew to cheat. Matthew also told me that Jennifer has constantly accused Matthew of possibly cheating on her with me despite showing her evidence that we did nothing of the sort. It had gotten to the point where Jennifer would prevent Matthew from going out with friends. She would sometimes confiscate his phone, and she has even taken his car keys, causing him to be late for work. So there was a lot more happening behind closed doors. Matthew wasn't blinded by love. He was simply afraid to reach out to any of us for help. He was embarrassed to tell us his bride-to-be was doing more than just controlling the wedding guest list. I asked Matthew if he wanted to go with us on vacation, but he declined, stating he wants to be alone, which I do understand. I go on vacation and I had a fun time. BTW, I did wear the dress that I bought and wore that to dinner with my boyfriend. He loved the dress and had constantly complimented me the entire time. When we returned, Jennifer messaged me, which I was surprised by as she never once did such a thing. She asked me if we could meet. At first, I wasn't sure, but I agreed. I brought my boyfriend along for safety reasons, as I wasn't sure what Jennifer's intentions were with me. Jennifer told me that she wants to apologize for lashing out at me at the store, for calling me names, and for uninviting me to the wedding over something so small. She explained that she allowed her jealousy to get the better of her, and she was so scared of losing Matthew that she ended up doing things that she deeply regrets. Jennifer is going to get therapy and said that she had some trauma in her childhood that lingered into her relationship in ways she didn't expect. She also admitted that she was insecure and found me to be a very beautiful woman, and she was a bit jealous when Matthew and I talk about our hobbies, and that made her feel left out because she isn't into Minecraft or gaming. I told her none of those things matter to me now since she has apologized and admitted what she did wasn't right and that I have forgiven her. As for Matthew and I's friendship, we are now back to hanging out and playing games together. Even my boyfriend has been hanging out with Matthew a lot and have gotten closer. I did decide to ask Matthew if he ever did have a crush on me back in the day, and he said he never did and that he was being honest. Jennifer moved her stuff out, and as for the cabin where the wedding was supposed to take place, Matthew, my boyfriend, myself, and a couple of our other friends will go there this upcoming weekend. I apologize for taking too long. I think posting it on my personal profile rather than on the subreddit is better since I broke the character limit. I'm quite busy and I know everyone was dying for an update. I also like to thank everybody who has given me advice on how to handle this situation and my friendship with Matthew. I also had the chance to read some personal stories some of you have sent me, and it breaks my heart. I realized I have such a big support group here, and that's one thing I love about Reddit. Next story. XGF wants to place our baby for adoption. Not sure that I can. I'm 23. My ex-girlfriend is 20. We met in college. I've since graduated, but she has 2 years left. She's 21 weeks pregnant and wants to put the baby up for adoption. She was around 14 weeks pregnant when she told me she was pregnant. We had already broken up 2 months before that, and I honestly had no idea she was pregnant. She said she needed space to make her own decision, and that's why she didn't tell me. From the moment she told me she was pregnant, I told her I would support whatever decision she made. I respect that it's her decision. I believe in a woman's right to choose and all that. I feel guilty that I got her pregnant. I'm internally panicking at the idea of a baby, and the idea of being a father is wild and unreal to me right now. But when she told me she was planning to put the baby up for adoption, it felt like a gut punch. She's already connected with an adoption agency and looking at possible adoptive families. In no way do I think she should be forced to be a parent. I would never want to contribute to that. I completely understand her reasoning. It's just making me feel sick. She seems as content as she can be with the decision. She knows this is the right decision for her. I don't know if I can consent to it. I've started researching contested adoptions. I think it's sort of crazy, and I'd have to be willing and prepared to completely support and parent the baby on my own and be able to prove it. I feel guilty thinking about coming in and ruining all of her plans. Maybe it wouldn't be fair to anyone for me to do that, but I'm becoming more uncomfortable with the idea of adoption every day. I've not told her how I feel because I know it took her a while to come to her decision, and even though she feels it's the right one, it's also a highly emotional thing for her. I spend a lot of time trying to rationalize why adoption is the best thing for everyone. Update. Posting this as an update because my original post received so many comments that it's hard to really follow everything there anymore. I was really surprised by how many people responded, and honestly, the advice was all over the place, and admittedly some of it got me pretty worked up. I think it really helped hearing some unbiased thoughts of my situation though. There's no huge update really. I've decided that just sitting here passively and not saying anything won't get me anywhere. My ex and I are in regular communication. We don't talk every day, but we text every few days. She told me she can't find any adoptive parents that feel right yet. She really wants me to start looking at the stuff the adoption agency has sent. She asked if I had looked, and I told her I skimmed some stuff, but it doesn't really make me feel good. That was my opening to tell her I'm really not sure how I feel about adoption, and I'm having second thoughts regarding my own desire to parent my child or not. She asked me what I was really trying to say, and I tried to communicate that I'm not saying she should keep the baby and be a parent right now. I understand why this is the best decision for her, but I'm not sure if it's the best decision for me. She said, "What? You're going to be a single dad? Ha 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 ha." I told her maybe it's not that crazy. She said it is crazy and don't do this to me. She basically feels like if I do that, even if I don't hold it against her, she's still legally the mom and suddenly she'll be this horrible deadbeat parent who isn't involved with her child at all. By placing the baby with another family, she breaks the legal ties, and she doesn't have to feel like she's quite as crappy of a person. Even my own mom is unsure of how to feel about what I'm considering it, but she would support me. She understands my feelings about not wanting my child to be raised by other people, but worries I'm biting off more than I can chew. She still supports me 100%. She thinks it's crazy, but she also thinks I can do it if it's what I want. I admittedly cried like a baby about it to my mom, and in true mom fashion, she thinks I need to follow my heart. Update 2. I've decided to pursue custody of my child and will not be consenting to an adoption. My ex-GF may or may not still try to pursue adoption. There's no way to know right now because she hasn't talked to me since I told her I was uncomfortable with adoption and exploring my own options. I have a consultation with a lawyer next week. In the meantime, I contacted the appropriate local county health departments. I can add myself to the putative father registry in the current state she's in. I've already downloaded the form and will get it notarized and sent off on Monday. This will do nothing to establish paternity, but will hopefully mean that I should be notified should she try to place our baby for adoption without informing me herself. The other state the state she's from, and where her family lives doesn't have a putative father registry. I'll still need to establish paternity as soon as the baby is born. That is, if she even informs me when she gives birth. I'd really like to be there or be able to get there as soon as possible, but I really have no clue what she's thinking or planning at this point. That I have a pretty clear understanding of my options for establishing paternity, and am hoping that by then she'll be willing to sign an affidavit establishing me as the father. Otherwise, I'll need to go through the courts. In an ideal world, she'd agree to a prenatal paternity test. I do believe I'm the father, but it would be nice to have that definitive assurance before I completely turn my life upside down for this. Since she's not talking to me currently, I can't ask her for that right now. Maybe once she has a chance to process things, we'll be able to talk about this more and she will cooperate. If not, I can't force her to do anything and may have to wait for the test. She's really stubborn, so I can see her digging her heels in. I'm leaving her alone right now, but I will communicate my decision to her after I speak with a lawyer. All of the comments on my previous posts really helped. The constructive criticism was needed. It gave me some important things to think about and questions to answer for myself. It did make me doubt myself, but ultimately the negative comments telling me not to do this or that I can't do it only served to motivate me further. She's around 23 weeks now. It feels like her due date is still a long ways away, but now that she's at the point of seriously looking at and interviewing potential adoptive families, I felt like I couldn't wait much longer to make a decision and move forward with it. Plus, it's going to take me at least that long to figure out some of the logistics. I previously had no clue how expensive daycare is, or that waitlists are often months or sometimes even more than a year long. I need to save money, start budgeting, maybe even considering moving slightly closer to family. I haven't figured anything out beyond just making the decision, but that was probably one of the hardest parts. Update 3. My daughter was born on New Year's Day, and I just found out. My ex-girlfriend gave birth to my daughter on New Year's Day and didn't inform me until today. I'm so pissed off that she would do something like that to me. I had asked her to please let me know when she went into labor so I could do my best to get there ASAP. We broke up before she told me she was pregnant, and we now live in different states. My previous posts detail a lot of the backstory, but basically she wanted to place the baby for adoption, and I ultimately decided that I wanted to keep the baby. She has maintained that she doesn't want to be a parent and has not been planning to be involved. I have been preparing to be a single parent for the past several months, with the understanding that there was a chance that she might change her mind and want to be involved with our daughter. I told her no matter what, I wanted to be involved with raising my child, and whether she changed her mind or not, I was going to be involved. Even after we broke up, our relationship was good for the first part of her pregnancy. We communicated regularly, and she wanted to involve me in the adoption process and all of that. As soon as I told her that I wasn't going to consent to an adoption, she turned cold, and I get it, I ruined her plans. She has been giving me very brief updates, basically just to let me know everything was fine. We had one big long conversation and she seemed to accept my decision, even though she was still upset about it, and made me promise that I'd give our baby all of these things she really wanted her child to have in life. I thought things seemed good or better after that. She even told me where she was at over the holidays in case something happened. She already told me she didn't want me in the delivery room, and I didn't fight that. I was disappointed at the idea that I wouldn't see my daughter being born, but in the grand scheme of things it was something I could live with. She told me she'd tell me when she went to the hospital so I could prepare. Today she sent me a picture and said our daughter was born on New Year's Day. She wasn't due until the end of January, but she is healthy and only spent one extra day in the hospital. The baby went home with my ex-GF and her parents. She said it's only fair that she got a few days with her before I knew, since I'm taking our daughter away forever. I've told her that if she changed her mind, I would rearrange my life, job, home, etc., because I'm not going to live states away from my child. She's trying to act as if I'm the bad guy taking her baby away now. I don't feel prepared yet. I felt like there was nothing else I could do to prepare, and it was just a waiting game. But now I feel like I really need the extra few weeks. I wish somebody could just knock me out with a sedative until my flight out there, because I'm just buzzing like crazy with all the emotions. My mom was supposed to come with me, since I planned to stay there for a few days before traveling back home, but due to the unexpected timing, my sister is coming with me. I just have a bad feeling about how dealing with my ex will be moving forward. I have a lawyer and already have things in motion to protect myself and my daughter, but I had just really hoped that things could be amicable between us. I feel like I've done nothing but try to be nice and understanding every step of the way. Update 4. I've received many private messages asking me for an update, and I'm sorry that I haven't responded to most of them. I've had a lot going on and my hands full since meeting my newborn daughter last month. I've only been at home with her for a few days and I'm still getting settled in here. During the second week of January, my sister and I traveled out to where my ex-girlfriend lives, and I met my newborn daughter for the first time. It was awkward, to say the least, with her whole family staring at me and silently shooting daggers at me. I felt like a jerk, but had to remind myself that I'm not taking our daughter away from her mother. She is choosing to not be directly involved. I have told her that I understand if she changes her mind. I've left the door open for her. It's just not a situation you really prepare for. I was so happy to meet my daughter, and all of these people staring at me were so sad. So I sort of hung around there for a little while because it felt wrong to just take the baby and leave. I was waiting for a cue from my ex to indicate she was ready, and eventually she told me to please leave, but that she would want to see her again before I left town. I rented an Airbnb because I planned to be there for a few weeks. Because I wasn't able to be at the hospital within 72 hours of the birth to fill out all of the appropriate paperwork as originally planned, she and I had to go to the local health department to file a paternity affidavit. She willingly went and signed everything. The baby's last name will now officially be changed to mine, but my ex picked out the first and middle names, and I chose not to argue. As far as custody goes, the paternity affidavit allowed us to agree to share joint legal custody. I had to submit to a court-approved paternity test as part of that. No big deal. She does not actually want joint legal custody. She wants to give me full legal and physical custody, but the form only allows us to officially establish joint legal custody. She has full physical custody because that's just how the law works there. I was already aware that this would be the case, and my lawyer is working on filing the appropriate forms in court to amend everything. We both want me to have physical custody since I will be the primary caregiver. I am opening a court case. I've explained the steps we have to take, and she understands. This is how the process works there, and even though we're in agreement right now, nothing is legally enforceable until there is a court ruling. At this time, she's in agreement and claims that she doesn't plan to fight it. She just wants to get it over with. I told her that she may want to think about it, because it feels like she is just trying to rip the band-aid off as fast as she can right now. I know sharing legal custody could really backfire on me, but I just want her to feel sure. I got the sense that she wasn't sure, but was just trying to follow through with a complete break. I feel like I'm on thin ice right now. All I have is a signed, notarized letter of consent to take my daughter out of state, so I'm anxious to get all official legal proceedings done. I don't think I'll be able to relax fully until then. The baby herself, she's perfect. She's so small. Everyone warned me not to get too many newborn-size clothes because she'd grow out so quickly, but the newborn clothes are still a little big. I think her features are becoming more noticeable now, but the only trace of me that I sort of see is her eyes. I look at her and it's like my heart just wants to explode. She's the tiniest, cutest thing I've ever seen in my life, and this is my kid. It still doesn't feel real. I'm still getting used to saying "my daughter" out loud when I have to call to make appointments. I think she has colic. During the early part of the day she seems happy and able to nap and doesn't cry a ton, but around dinner time she starts screaming and will cry almost non-stop for hours. She spews vomit like you wouldn't believe. The only thing that semi-soothes her is being out in the stroller and rolled back and forth over and over. She was just switched over to a special formula, but I think it's too soon to know if it'll make a difference. I had colic too, apparently. A year ago, I never would have imagined any of this. It almost feels like I'm watching somebody else from the outside. Update 5. I now officially have sole custody, but suddenly Mom wants to visit. I officially have sole legal and physical custody of my daughter. Took a while for all of the paperwork to be filed and approved, but everything has been finalized and it's such a relief. Even though her mother was cooperative, I was constantly worried she'd suddenly change her mind or her family would convince her to change her mind, since I believe they have a strong influence over her and accuse me of taking off with our kid. I've posted in a few groups over the course of all this, but to sum it all up, my ex-GF21 and I-24 had an unplanned baby. She didn't tell me she was pregnant until after we broke up and I had moved to a different state. She wanted to place the baby for adoption, but I decided I couldn't do that. I'm currently parenting my daughter on my own. She still has legal parental rights but is not involved in any way. My daughter is almost 13 weeks old. I think I was meant to be a parent, and for some reason the universe deemed it to happen now instead of when I always thought it'd happen later in life. I still have no clue what I'm doing most of the time, but I'm happy and I love my daughter so much. I think we've both come a long way in the past 3 months. I had to go back to work earlier this month. Unfortunately, I'm still in the wait list for a few daycares that are going to be the best options for me cost-wise and location-wise. The only one that had an opening for her age was out of the way as far as my workplace goes and was at the very top of the budget. Let's be real, daycare in general is nearly out of my budget, but I'm going to make it work. My workplace is letting me work from home a few days a week as I transition back to work. They all know the situation and have been very accommodating. On the days I go into the office, my grandma is watching her for now. I admit, I actually felt really depressed when I had to go back to work. As much as I was looking forward to the adult interaction again, I was sad. I might have actually cried once. I hadn't heard from her mother since I brought my daughter home for the first time. I did have to reach out to her a few times regarding the status of some paperwork that we filed, but I did not mention the baby, send unsolicited photos, etc. I know she said she doesn't want to be a mom, but I guess I found it weird that she never even asked about her once. Now she's reached out. I'm assuming that the custody stuff may have played a part. I don't really know. She asked if I could send her some pictures, and I did. Then she asked, what if I want to see her in person? Well, okay, but I told her she'll have to come here. I don't have any tow time, and I don't think it makes sense for me to have to travel states away with a baby for her to see her. She said she doesn't know when she'll have the money and time to do that. I told her I don't know what to tell her then. It seemed like she either wanted me to go to her or for me to pay for it. I can't do either of those things. How do I still feel bad for her for some reason? Update 6. I've posted several times, but it's been a while. I don't have much time to post or respond to the messages I receive here anymore. But I'm on vacation this week, my daughter's first trip to the beach, and I have some free time. Honestly, I guess I'm feeling really good and just a little bit petty and wanted to share an update as a response to everyone who said I wouldn't be able to handle it or that I'd be forcing my child's mother to be involved. I don't expect anyone reading this to remember anything about my story. Long story short, my ex-GF from college got pregnant and planned to place our baby for adoption. I really did try to accept it and go along with it, but I couldn't wrap my head around having a child out there. I've been raising her as a single parent without any real involvement from my ex. I accepted that this would be the case and I respect her choice. I have a very supportive family, so I have help in that way for sure, but nobody is raising my daughter for me. My daughter will be 6 months on July 1st. She's doing really well for the most part. She's been diagnosed with Sandifer syndrome, which is something most people, including myself, have never even heard of. She has uncontrollable muscle spasms after eating due to acid reflux, which her originally pediatrician brushed off and made me feel like I was just worrying too much or overreacting to hear colic and severe projectile vomiting after meals. Luckily, this isn't a life-threatening illness or something that should affect her for the rest of her life. It should clear up by the time she's 1.5 years old, if not sooner. She's already doing better with some diet changes and some other changes on my part as far as feeding positions, frequency of feeding, etc. She's doing so well now that the doctor is holding off on putting her on medication and thinks she probably won't need it. She developed a secondary condition called torticollis, which is essentially short right neck muscles that cause her head to turn to side. So she's going to weekly physical therapy for that, and thankfully it's something that can be resolved and isn't a lifelong condition or anything like that. I feel bad, even though I've been told repeatedly that none of this was caused by anything I did. Rationally, I know that, but I'm finding that a lot of feelings you have as a parent aren't always rational. She goes to daycare now, just started a few weeks ago. Prior to that, my grandma was watching her during the day, so I was really lucky to have that help. I'm still learning to be comfortable with dropping her off at daycare. Before she was born, I thought, daycare, no big deal. It's hard to trust total strangers with your kid who can't at least talk to tell you what's happening all day. Not to mention the cost. But having my grandma watch her for the first few months allowed me to save up a very tiny bit. I've paid off credit cards and have vowed not to use them again, so I have that credit in reserve should I ever have any big emergency. I'm definitely budgeting. My sister is into couponing and sales and knows how to get all the deals, so her help has been invaluable to me financially. My daughter's mom isn't directly involved at all. I don't resent her, and I haven't tried to force her to be involved or even asked her to do anything. She contacted me a few months ago and wanted to come here to visit our daughter. We live states apart now. Around the time I started occasionally sharing pictures with her. We don't really talk about how she feels or is handling any of it. Sometimes I'm curious about how she feels, but really it's none of my business. She went back to school and is focusing on that now. She never came to visit, she wanted me to pay for it. And I told her no, it wasn't even totally a matter of not wanting to, but I don't have the money for that. She sent me a really nice, long text on Father's Day. We don't talk unless it's to give her a little update when she asks. I guess feel kind of mixed about sharing the updates and photos, but am trying not to be an butthole about it. I guess that's all I really have to share. Pretty boring, but maybe that's a good thing. I received several Father's Day messages from people here and didn't think anyone would even remember me months later. So thanks to everyone who has been following this journey and been kind and supportive. Next story. Am I the butthole for not telling my ex that I am married? I had a weird situation happen last weekend and was hoping to get perspectives on if what I did was wrong. My wife and I were near Seattle last weekend visiting my family. We are both in our early 30s and are happily married for 4 years together for 6. We went out to a bar on Saturday with a bunch of my friends to catch up. When I was going to the restroom, I felt a tap on my shoulder, and to my surprise it was Jen, my ex. Jen and I dated for 4 years in our early 20s. Jen left me because she wanted to explore herself, and since I was her first boyfriend, she felt like she was missing something in life. I was very happy with her, and I had a job in tech that put us on a very stable financial path. I was probably a few months away from proposing her. I was heartbroken, and it took me a few years before I could start dating again. Although Jen and I stayed friends for a year after breakup, I went NC with her so that I could move on, and never talked to her since then. My wife knows about all this. Back to the incident, Jen tapped on my shoulder, and I was surprised to see her. She hugged me, and we exchanged pleasantries. She was there with her friends, and they were all sitting at the bar. I knew most of them. They also came to say hello. We chatted for a few minutes before I felt like I need to end the conversation. We mostly talked about what I was doing back in my hometown and how we have been. I abruptly told her it was nice to see her after years and that I need to go back to our table as I am out with my friends. She said okay, and I quickly turned around. To my surprise, my wife was standing right behind me. My friends identified Jen from our table, and my wife came to stand next to me. I told my wife, "What a weird coincidence," and took her hand and went back to the table. When I sat at the table, all my friends started talking about Jen. My wife seemed visibly uncomfortable about the situation. I tried to change the subject, but I learned that Jen married someone a few years ago, and they got divorced last year. She moved back to our hometown so she can stay at her parents' house until she figures things out. My wife seemed really interested in Jen's life and asking a lot of questions while I was just trying to avoid the whole topic. When we were driving home, my wife asked me why I didn't tell Jen that I was married, and she was my wife. She feels I should have introduced her to Jen so that Jen can see I am happily married to my wife. I told her I was just trying to end the conversation as I went no contact with her long time ago, and I prefer to keep it that way. My wife asked me how I felt after seeing her after a long time. I told her that I was surprised since I was not expecting to see her, but to be honest, I felt like she was a stranger. I told my wife that I did feel sad that things didn't work out for her. My wife was upset because she felt I should have introduced her to Jen. She felt that Jen hugged me for too long, and I should clearly have told Jen that I was married and have a lovely wife. My wife feels she came all the way from the table to stand next to me and felt slightly insulted that I did not include her in the conversation. From my perspective, I was just trying to get out of the conversation and don't see how it would have helped anyone. The issue became worse the next morning, when Jen sent me a friend's request on Instagram and also messaged me on my phone saying it was nice to meet me. I feel that triggered my wife, and for some reason my mom, who went on a rant about Jen because she hated Jen when we were dating. That made my wife very happy. My wife feels that I did not communicate clearly to Jen that I was married, and that was the reason why she messaged me the next day. I rejected the follow request on Instagram and also did not respond to her message. However, a part of me feels my wife might be right, and I did something wrong here. Am I the butthole for not telling Jen that I was married and introducing her to my wife who was standing right next to me? I just wanted to get out of the conversation and was in a hurry to end it. Update. I wrote a post a few days ago regarding bumping into my ex Jen when I was on a trip to my hometown. My wife saw me talking to her and came up to me, and like an idiot, I forgot to introduce Jen to my wife. My wife was a bit upset that I did not tell Jen I was married. Thanks everyone who commented and let me know unanimously how stupid I was during the whole interaction. We came back home yesterday. Although my wife seemed to have gotten over the incident, I decided it would be best to apologize to her and let her know that I did not have any wrong intentions. It was just a deer-in-a-headlight moment for me, and I should have introduced her to Jen. At night, when my wife was scrolling her phone in bed, I decided to bring up the topic. I told her that I wanted to apologize for the incident on Saturday. I know I messed up royally and I should have introduced her to Jen, so she can see that I am happily married together. I told her that I was just surprised to see her, and I really wanted to get out of the conversation as soon as possible. My wife said it was okay, and she saw how flustered I was when I was talking to Jen. She said that when Jen saw me and hugged me, everyone at the table started staring at us. One of my friends, Rita, made some scandalous comments regarding why Jen is doing schmoozing with me. My wife had never seen Jen's picture and took her a while to realize that it was Jen. She thought she would stand next to me, and once I tell Jen that I am here with my wife, she would leave me alone. However, when she stood next to me for more than a minute, I did not notice. Jen noticed her and gave her a dirty look. Once I turned around to go to the table, she was hoping I would introduce her to Jen, so Jen knows she was my wife and not some random girl standing next to me. However, I just hurried back to the table with her. I again apologized to her and told her that from my perspective, I was just trying to finish the conversation and get back to the table. In hindsight, I should have done what she said, but I froze in the moment and was not thinking straight. She again asked me why I was acting so weird around Jen. I wish I had a better answer, but talking to Jen just felt wrong, and all I was thinking was I need to get back to my wife. I asked her if she felt bad that I was talking to Jen or that she hugged me. She told me that she has always been curious about Jen since I was so close to marrying her, and when she saw me around her, she felt I was still acting like how someone acts around their crush. Moreover, she saw Jen and realized how beautiful she was and felt insecure in that moment. My friends making a big deal out of it did not help either. She asked me if I ever wished Jen did not break up with me. I told her that if I had a time machine, I would wish 100 out of 100 times that Jen would break up with me, so that I got to meet my wife and build such a beautiful life together. This made her smile, and she gave me a big hug. I asked her if I should message Jen and let her know I am married. She said there is no need to do that since my profile picture on messages is a picture with my wife, and Jen should have seen that already. Also, my Instagram is public with a lot of pictures of my wife and me, so she asked me to just ignore her message and get on with our lives. Again, thanks everyone for being so brutally honest as I would expect from Reddit. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share, and subscribe the channel James Stories.